I have a friend, she lost her husband 2 years ago, and he loved to work in the garden, and he would get all these reading glasses at Costco. And she found a pair of reading glasses in the garden last week. He's kind of over it, yeah. I'll call the meeting in the McHenry County Zoning Board of Appeals to order. The first item on our agenda today is application Z25-0079. The applicant is Howard Bopart. This is a request for from the A1 Agricultural District to the A2 Agricultural District. There's one PIN number associated with this application. It's 0710100003. The address is 17001 McGuire Road, Harvard. The subject property contains approximately 7.37 acres, and it's located on the south side of McGuire Road, about 0.9 miles west of the intersection of McGuire Road and Wilson Road, with a common address of 17001 McGuire Road, Harvard, in Heartland Township. At this time, I'll have members of the Zoning Board of Appeals introduce themselves and the township in which they reside, starting on my left.
Good afternoon. Mary Donner, Greenwood Township.
Charlie Eldridge, Richmond Township.
I'm Linnea Foostra in Alden Township.
Vicki Gardner, Nunda Township.
Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township.
Jess Beverly, Door Township.
This petition has been reviewed and the following items have been received prior to today's scheduled hearing. Publisher's certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated October 21, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of posting was signed and date posted was October 17, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of mailing was signed and date mailed was October 17, 2025, also meeting ordinance requirements. The survey has been checked against the petition, legal notice, and publication in the newspaper, and all three match. The filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this petition, and the McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. For further information, this would be NRI L250724733. Just for everybody's information, no matter what petition you're here for, how a zoning hearing works is the petitioner presents their case, then they're asked questions by the board, then the staff might have questions, and then if the public has any questions, they're allowed 3 minutes to ask their questions of the petitioner. And after that point, then the staff will present their report, and then if there's any member of the public that has a comment on the petition, they could do that. Then you'll have your closing statement if you have one, and then we'll vote on the petition. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so rules of testimony apply. So anybody who is speaking or asking a question, anybody will need to be sworn in. So at this time, I would ask anyone here for any of the petitions today who thinks you might be speaking, asking a question, giving testimony, please raise your right hand. Do you affirm that the testimony you give today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. We'll turn it over to you. Please introduce yourself, sir, and your address, and then we'll go ahead with your petition.
Should I stand?
No, you're fine.
Okay. I'm Howard Bopart, born Woodstock, local, raised, and currently living at in 433 State Road 58, Laval, Wisconsin, 2.5 hours northwest of here, which is the most beautiful part of Wisconsin. I'll add, it's a surface area. Not being native, I can say that, and without regard. But the petition today that I bring forward, it's a part of the estate planning that I've been working with. I'm the youngest of 3 children. I have parents, Joanne and Jean Bopart. My dad passed away 2 years ago, and yes, a little over 2 years ago. And my mom is currently residing in the home. But does require, she's unable, I'm testifying for her, she has Alzheimer's very bad, and to the point that we do have 24/7 care in the home. So so as far as the wish, my parents were to both, die in their home. They built this home in 1980, and several years ago, we were doing estate planning. They wanted their wishes to, die in their home. So we're trying to fulfill this wish. It's very expensive home care, so at this stage, if we had to, this could be something funds to keep my mom in her wish. So if not, if there's further care, care is very expensive. And so this is sort of it's an estate planning is what we're at right now. And being agricultural, I have an ag econ degree. I went to Auburn University, ag economics, and I'm very into the agricultural background and preservation of farmland. This will serve a purpose of still having the farmland, yet still having a home for, separated from the farmland, so there is a potential being able to mom stay in her home. So that's the premise of the submission here. Any questions?
There's some standards, Howard, you need to address. Melody, if you could put those up on the screen. You probably address these in your application, but if you just kind of go through those briefly for us.
Sure. So yes, I think I did answer these already, I believe, online.
I
In the
think you did
application
too, I just don't have it here in
process.
my
I can't
packet.
remember, but it's pretty straightforward.
It's in the packet.
It is,
Yeah.
it's not in the packet I have from staff here, but
Sure.
would you just like to incorporate your answers into the
What I've submitted already,
testimony?
I don't want to, So what I have submitted online is reasoning behind the zoning. And I think I mentioned too, it's the premise of a lot of it too, we're keeping the agricultural ground. This is purely, it's the picture you saw up there earlier, that's pretty much the house on 7.37 acres. It's all wooded. It's to maintain the home and the farmland is the premise behind it. There's meet all the requirements as far as road frontage, 410 feet from my mom's home there. So more than I think the minimum is 360, is that right? 230. So that requirement is met, no problem. It's just primarily the house on 7 acres of woods.
And your plat exception is that you have a parcel of 5 acres or more in size, which doesn't involve any new streets.
Correct.
We'll start with questions, am I right, Ms. Beverly?
I have no questions.
Mr. Schnabel?
I'd just like to wish you and your mother the best. I know it's tough, and I don't have any questions for you.
Thank you.
No questions.
Ms. Gertner, Mr. Eldridge?
Yes, I just want to say that I empathize with your position. Many years ago, I was end-of-life guardian for 7 different relatives, and over a 20-year period, so including a couple that had dementia, so I know how difficult it is, and I understand the issues. I have no other questions.
Ms. Downing?
I've been there, done that myself, and I'm trying to get other family members to understand the concept so they can do this too before it becomes a problem. I have no other questions.
I don't have any questions. I think you've met the approval standards for the map amendment and for the E2 district, so I don't have any questions. Does staff have any questions?
Staff doesn't have any questions.
Does the public have any questions? Do you have a closing statement? Or no, we'll go to staff report before you have a
Go ahead.
closing statement.
Sure, so for the record, my name is Melody Jacobson. I'm a planner with the county. And the subject property is currently zoned A1 agriculture. And to the north, we have parcels that are zoned A1 and A2 agriculture with a variance. That variance is just regarding the required street front setback from the road lot line. To the south, east, and west of the subject property, we have parcels that are zoned A1 agriculture as well. The current land use of the subject property is currently agricultural and single-family residential, as well as property and land use to the north. And to the south, east, and west, we have land uses that are agriculture. For the future land use map designates the subject property as developing with agricultural and environmentally safe, sensitive area. So staff would like to add that this property is not located within a sensitive aquifer recharge area, and no additional development is planned at this time. So staff has no objections to the requests presented today.
Anyone on the board have a question for staff? Okay. Now's your opportunity for closing statement, if you'd like to.
I have nothing
otherwise-
prepared, but I would say that thank you for your time and consideration in this application. I'm just doing this purely in the best interest of, I feel, of course, my mom and also the county as far as meeting obligations of, land use.
At this time, we'll close the hearing portion of, for this petition, and we'll move on to the voting meeting.
Is there any public comment for this?
I'm sorry?
We didn't ask about public comment.
Oh, does anyone member have public comment? Since no one had questions, I figured they didn't. Okay. Okay. So we're opening the voting meeting on application Z250079 for an A1 to A2 request. I would entertain a motion to approve this request.
He has the right to.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. Howard, we only have 6 members here today, and you're entitled to 7 votes. So you need 5 for a positive recommendation for the county board. So I have to tell you that if you would like to wait and have 7 people vote, you have the option to do that. So it's up to you if you want to do 6 or not.
In the name of time, I guess, and everyone's consideration, I guess I can waive that.
Okay.
I feel this is
So we-
straightforward enough.
Acceptance of the petition. Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Eldridge, second by Mr. Schnabel, that we approve this petition. Thanks for that reminder, Charlie. I had it written right here, and did I forget it? So usually we do have 7. Discussion, Mr. Eldridge.
Yes. It is the public policy of McHenry County to try to preserve farmsteads and farm buildings wherever possible. It is presently not economical or desirable for most farmers to acquire additional buildings when they are seeking to acquire farmland. So the way to preserve such things is specifically what we're doing here, which is carving off the farmland from the residents. I believe that all the standards have been met. This is a heavily agricultural, quiet part of the county that is likely to remain agricultural for the foreseeable future. And I support the petition.
Ms. Gartner.
I agree with Mr. Eldridge. This is a very straightforward, as you said, A1 to A2. For the noblest of reasons, I had a mother who wanted to stay at home until she passed, and unfortunately that didn't happen, but I hope it does happen in your case. So I'm in favor.
Mr. Schnabel.
I fully support the petition.
Ms. Beverly.
I find that the approval standards for the map amendments are met based on the petitioner's submission and the acceptance of the staff report recommendation for approval. I support.
Ms. Donner.
For the same reasons, I agree with her.
And I'll just say I'm very familiar with this property. It's only a few miles from my home. I also have known this family for probably Howard's whole life. And I know that your parents would be really happy that you're doing it this way, so that your mom can stay there. Maybe you can purchase the rest of it, who knows? But yeah.
I have 2 sisters.
Yes. So I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Beverly?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So this petition goes to the county board with a 6-0 vote approving the request. Now we'll move on to the second A2 for your family. So the second item on our agenda is application Z250080. The applicant is Howard Bopart. The PIN number associated with this request is 0712-300-003. The address is 4210 Alden Road, Woodstock, and it's request for reclassification from the A1 Agricultural District to the A2 Agricultural District. The property is located on the east side of Alden Road, approximately 840 feet north of the intersection of Alden Road and Macaulay Road, with a common address of 4210 Alden Road, Woodstock, Illinois, in Heartland Township. This petition has been reviewed and the following items have been received prior to today's scheduled hearing. The publisher's certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated October 21, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The affidavit of posting was signed and the date posted was October 20, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The affidavit of mailing was signed and the date mailed was October 17, 2025, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. The survey has been checked against the petition, legal notice, and publication in the newspaper, and all three match. The filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this petition, and the McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation District report has been received. This would be NRI L250714732. Again, we'll just proceed as before. We'll open it up to you. Would you like to incorporate everything on your application regarding the standards for the map amendment?
Please.
And everything? Okay, we will do that. Would you like to just explain a little bit about this property and?
Sure. So my Aunt Mary Ellen, who's here with me, Mary Ellen Howard, and this is her residence, and she can speak on her own. But so feel free to ask myself or Aunt Mary Ellen any further questions. But very similar to the previous request, I tried to do this in conjunction. It's easier to come here one time and the same purposes. My Aunt Mary Ellen is doing much better in health-wise than my mother, but again, estate planning. But there's a little bit of and on this property, there's a little bit more sentimental on this. This is homesteaded ground from the original Irish immigrants from 1840s. So, so I do have interest in definitely trying to hold on to this piece, especially since I did buy the farm that is directly south of this back in 1995 with my parents. And so it adjoins and a rare happening, and we took down a fence line and made a bigger field. So, so there is interest in maintaining this farmland as farm. My personal feel is that, you know, when some people have too much ground, there's too much junk gets attracted. So this is for this purpose, we like to break the roughly 1.4 acres, it's a 1.38, I believe, acres from the homesteaded 40 that's been in the family for over 150 years. No other family members are interested in farming, agriculture. I am, and we want to continue that being farmed. So with that is why we put this petition, and hopefully we never need it for purposes of raising funds, meeting, but it could be to that point if we had need be. So.
Okay, we'll start with questions on my left this time, Ms. Donner.
I have no questions.
Mr. Eldridge.
I have no questions, but I'm sixth generation McHenry County, and my son lives on property that my family bought in 1837. So.
Wow.
Ms. Eldridge. Or,
I didn't.
I'm gonna move my chair.
I'm so sorry, baby.
That's okay. Could have been someone worse, you know.
That's right.
My only question is that on your application, you checked box A under the Plat Act exemption boxes, and that is not applicable to this site because this site is less than 5 acres. So I think what you wanted to check was C, the third one, which is for a single lot of less than 5 acres from a larger tract, et cetera, et cetera. So do you want me to just change that for you?
Yes, that
I will do
be
that.
appropriate.
Okay,
Yes.
that's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Schnabel.
I have no questions.
Ms. Beverly.
I have no questions. Vicky took mine.
Sorry. They'll call you Mrs.
You can switch
Eldridge.
chairs. It's all on.
Does staff have any questions?
No, staff doesn't have any questions.
Anyone from the public have a question? At this time, we'll move to testimony from the public, starting with the staff. Ms. Jacobson?
Okay. Again, for the record, my name is Melody Jacobson. I'm a planner with the county. And the subject property is currently zoned A1 agriculture. And to the southeast and west of the subject property, we have parcels that are also zoned A1 agriculture. The current land use of the subject property is agriculture and single-family residential. To the north and south and west, we also have parcels with land uses of agriculture. And to the east, the current land use for those parcels are agriculture and also single-family residential. The future land use map designates the subject property as developing with agriculture. The property is not located in a sensitive aquifer recharge area, and no additional development is planned at this time. So staff has no objections with the requests presented today.
Okay, does any member of the public have a comment? Do you have a closing statement?
Again, I just thank you for your consideration, and I appreciate your time today.
Okay, at this time, we'll close the hearing portion of this meeting and we'll move on to the voting meeting for this petition. Again, you have 6 people. Are you willing to go ahead with 6 votes?
I am. Thank you.
This is Z250080 with classification from the A1 Agriculture District to the A2 Agricultural District. At this time, I would take a motion for approval.
I move approval of the petition.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Eldridge, second by Ms. Gardner to approve this petition. Discussion, Mr. Eldridge.
Yes, this is on the east side of Alden Road between Woodstock and the village of Alden. It is once again a rural part of the county that is unlikely to develop other than in agriculture for the foreseeable future. This is part of homestead property that has been in the present owner's family for over 150 years. As I commented in the previous, it is the public policy to preserve farmsteads and farm buildings wherever possible in the county, and the most effective way to do it today, since farmers acquiring additional land generally do not wish to acquire buildings with them, is to separate it. I am perfectly delighted to once again support this petition.
Ms. Gardner.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Eldridge. This again is a very straightforward request. I see no problem with it. You do meet the standards, including the Plat Act now, and I'm in favor. And I hope Aunt Mary Ellen has a place to live forever and
Yes,
ever.
she's born.
You were born there.
Born there, but you were actually physically born. I mean, I was born there. Mom was born at Harvard Hospital.
Oh, no, she wasn't
No,
born
you were at Harvard Hospital too.
Howard, you're under oath here.
But she's been there the whole time.
86, wow.
Fabulous.
Well, I wish you many more.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Schnabel.
I'm also in favor.
Ms. Beverly.
I find that it meets the standards of the approval standards for a map amendment as amended by the testimony.
Ms. Donner.
I will be supporting this.
And I'm in favor as well. I think it meets the standards in our ordinance, and it's a wise use, and people want rural residences. Some people just want to live in the country and not have a big farm, and so this makes an opportunity for them too. So at such time, if you ever decide you want to sell, somebody will be thrilled to have a country home. So I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Beverly?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, so this will go to the county board with a 6-0 vote approving this request.
That'll be on the December 16th County Board of Health.
Is that something that petitioners need to attend?
You
It
can
should
watch.
just sail through on the consent agenda. Well, you don't have to be here. Okay, we're going to take just a 5-minute break if anyone needs to.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have to get my cousins to understand, there are 7 of them who owns the
Everybody's back. It's back.
We're here. All 6 of us.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is the continuation of application Z250065. The applicant is Pebble Solar LLC. The request for a conditional use permit to allow for a commercial solar energy facility. This hearing is a continuation. The first hearing date was August 27th, 2025. The second hearing date was September 10, 2025. Today's hearing date, time, and location were announced on the record at the last hearing date of October 22, 2025. Thereby, notice by publication, certified mail, and posting were not required for today's continuation. I'd like to say at the beginning of the meeting that I was not here for any of those days, but I did read the transcript and watch the video from those hearings, and so I'm well aware of the testimony that was given. At the last hearing, the public comment had been made, but there was a request for a wetland delineation and tree survey, so I would like to turn it over to the petitioner to present their testimony for that.
Thank you very
So
much.
again, please introduce yourself. And
Absolutely.
continue.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be back before you today. As you know, my name is Mark Gershon. I'm an attorney for the applicant Pebble Solar LLC, subsidiary of Cultivate Power LLC. And what we're going to do today is address the specific request for wetlands and tree studies. Those documents have been submitted to the county, provided to each of you, and we would ask that they be included in the record as documents as the rest of our documentation has. While we've confirmed in the transcript of the prior ZBA meeting and your staff that we meet all of the standards of the county and state ordinance, we're going to specifically, at the direction of the ZBA, only address those 2 issues, the wetlands and the tree studies. We are hoping that even though those documents were not required by your codes, that you'll be pleased by our findings and understand what has been done to minimize the impacts both on trees and on wetlands. And again, that is one of the identified requirements of your code, not that there be no impact, but that we minimize that impact. And we believe we've satisfied that requirement by only impacting 4 notable trees as defined by our agricultural experts out of the 85 notable trees in the property, and only 29 total trees of any quality out of the 1,321 trees in the property. We've also shown minimal impact on wetlands and confirmed by prior actions of the Army Corps of Engineers in our study, each of which we will go into in further information now. With all that said, I'd like to introduce Dylan Haber, who you again know with the developer with Cultivate Power, and Sarah Skowronski, our environmental scientist with Kimley Horn. And I'm going to turn it over to Dylan to walk through the reports.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, once again, I'm Dylan Haber. I'm the lead developer with Pebble Solar for Cultivate Power here. And I'm just
Would you speak up so people behind you can hear?
Yes, sorry about that. I'm the lead developer on this Pebble Solar project. I'm an employee of Cultivate Power, and I put together some slides here that I'll walk you through just to supplement the testimony we gave before as it relates to the environmentally sensitive areas, the tree survey results, and the wetland delineation results. So just as a reminder from the Unified Development Ordinance around commercial solar energy facilities, the facility must be situated as to minimize the impacts on woodlands, savannas, wetlands, and drainage tiles. And so I think, looking at the testimony that we give here, I think we're in a good place to be doing that. This is the revised site plan. It's largely similar to what you saw last time. However, we have included the trees, the exact locations and the certain species and the ones that are anticipated to be required to be removed, as well as all the ones that will be preserved on this property. And I've got a few zoomed in images coming up here. I know it's kind of tough to see. And then we've got the wetland delineation as well from the results of the field study.
Could we dim the lights a little?
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just to start, there's, from the 2030 comprehensive plan, yeah, you can go stand up there, but this is from your comprehensive plan from, and what Kim had outlined in this staff report last time, but that kind of squiggly line at the bottom there delineates the environmentally sensitive area here that is anticipated to be preserved here. And so it largely lines up with the edge of the floodplain there for Boone Creek at the south side of the property. And so I just want to highlight here that there's, this is the southern part that is considered environmentally sensitive, and we're not planning to put any panels or posts within that area. All of the panels and posts that you'll see on this plan will be located to the north of that area. So this is the tree survey results, and this table is what Mark alluded to beforehand, but just to summarize, we did have a count of 1,321 total trees in the surveyed area here on the property. Of those, we found that 85 total are considered to be notable to McHenry County, and that's based on this definition that you see here of oak and hickory species determined to be fair or good quality by the arborist in their site condition analysis, and a diameter of 12 inches or more. Only 4 of these 85 trees are anticipated to have to be removed, and those are, as we discussed last time, kind of along the edge of that existing curved access road between the north side of the property and the south side of the property. So pretty low percentage of the total trees on site and of the notable trees. And then I'll get into it a little bit more on the next slide, but the design here utilizes the existing curved roadway, and we looked at a few different paths through that forest there. In an ideal kind of construction-minded design, we would have a straight road through there, and we decided against that in the current design. We want to be utilizing that existing road as much as possible, and I think Sarah can speak a little bit more to it, but what I understand is if you were to cut a new straight line road there, you're creating a new kind of exposed boundary to that forest that would potentially degrade it from a number of different edges as well. So we think keeping the bulk of that forest intact and working with what is already there in terms of a road is going to do the least amount of damage to that forest.
Do you know where those trees are?
Yeah, so I'll get into it in the next slide here. But yeah, the design that we've chosen here is chosen thoughtfully to minimize the impact to the trees in there. So this is what you see is the kind of forested area in between the northern part and the southern part of the property where the 2 arrays are to be situated. So it might be tough to tell here, but all of these green, dark green and light green dots are trees that we are not planning on touching at all. So those are all the ones here that existing trees to be preserved, and you can see there are kind of big clusters around the house and through this forested area here. And then what you see for the orange and the red dots are the trees that we believe may have to be removed in order to slightly widen that existing access road to reach the south side of the property. So there's 4 kind of orange dots, 1, 2, 3, 4 there that we think may have to go. And as we mentioned at the last hearing, once we get out to site for actual construction, we're going to do our best to not touch these trees. This is just kind of the estimation of what we think will have to be removed. You can see, this orange one right here, if I'm able to hit it with my cursor properly, is right at the edge of that road, and, you know, we're gonna give the contractors instructions that if all possible, they move the road slightly one way or the other way to avoid the impacts there. So this is kind of the bulk of it, and then what I was mentioning before is that straight line. You know, in an ideal world, we'd kind of go right through north-south there, but we decided that this would have the least amount of impact to the forest there. And now the other matter at hand is the wetland and waterway delineation, and we did have a field scientist go out and take their measurements and gather the data and delineate what we assumed were wetlands, and that has now been confirmed. So there are 2 wetlands that are delineated on site. I'll start with this smaller one up here to the north, which is wetland 2, about 0.72 acres, and the wetland scientist has given us the indication that will not be jurisdictional, but that again is in the middle of a little bit of a forested area at the north side of the property, and that is one that our design fully avoids. So we're not putting any piles or panels in that wetland, and we're not clearing any trees there. We're doing our best to kind of work around the perimeter of that one and not have any impacts at all up there. And then kind of getting to wetland 1, this is the bigger one that I think will involve a little bit more discussion. So that's wetland 1. It's about 3.4 acres out of the 33 acres of total fenced area there. And that one you'll see on the next slide is a lot smaller than what we had anticipated beforehand. The initial hearing we had, you'll see on the next slide, I can show it here and hop back, but we had anticipated kind of this whole southeastern area to be a wetland based on the McHenry County ADID GIS files. And you can see in actually sending someone to site and doing the field observations, we've shrunk that a decent amount. So, you know, this is the wetland that was delineated. And as I mentioned, you know, Boone Creek is to the south here. I don't want folks here to get the impression that this southern boundary is the end of it. We recognize that there is a creek there, there is a floodplain there, as well at the south side from that creek. And because we've avoided it, this kind of S-curve here was the extent of the study area. So if it had been surveyed here, we do anticipate that would extend down, that wetland would extend southward into the creek as well. And so you'll see here that the panels have largely remained in the same area, and that this larger 3-acre wetland is, we've been given the indication that it will be jurisdictional water of the U.S. to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And so, we've done, as a company, many projects where we've done consultation with the Army Corps of Engineers, and you go through their permitting process, but they don't consider these solar piles to be fill material or really major impacts to the wetlands themselves. So we go through that process with them. I'll mention too, I think I had it on the other slide, that no trenching or grading or fill will actually occur within that wetland. There's no access road, there's no concrete, there's no kind of dirt being moved in or taken out of that wetland. It's really strictly these steel posts that are going to be driven in this proposal. And so I'll turn it over to Sarah just to give a little bit more detail on this type of process here.
Yeah, so just more of like a background on jurisdictional versus isolated wetlands.
And your full name, please.
Oh, sorry, Sarah Skoronsky, Kinley Horn, environmental scientist. There are 2 types of regulations. You have your federal level, which is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, jurisdictional waters of the U.S., and then McHenry County also regulates isolated waters. So those wetlands that do not qualify as jurisdictional are considered isolated, and McHenry County has very comprehensive ordinances on how to preserve and mitigate any impacts to those. The wetland on site is, the wetland in question, wetland 1, as Mark mentioned, or Dylan mentioned earlier, that the boundary of, that southern boundary of wetland 1 actually extends farther south towards Boone Creek, which that connection to a water of the, an established water of the United States being Boone Creek itself, that connection to it makes wetland 1 a likely to be jurisdictional wetland through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I've permitted lots of projects in this regard that are jurisdictional wetlands, and the U.S. Army Corps does not consider solar piles to be a permanent impact. It's considered a temporary impact. And so you, through this process, you go through a pre-application meeting, get a approved jurisdictional determination through the Army Corps, and that is what grants the ability for Cultivate Power to install those solar piles within the wetland. With that, there is no grading allowed, there is no fill allowed to be put within the wetland. It is simply the permitting of the pile itself being driven into the ground. That is not considered a permanent impact.
Thanks. And just to touch on something else, I know the environmental defenders in McHenry County had some comments about this at the last hearing. Since then, we had a good long call with them a few weeks ago to kind of hear their concerns and understand what changes or that they would want to see in here. We've also, I feel, been fairly transparent with them in sending them the results of the tree survey directly and the wetland delineation and the updated site.
Did you get the most recent letter from them?
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at. I actually spoke with Cindy Screwcrude yesterday on the phone, and then we got a letter from the McHenry Defenders just this morning in advance of the hearing. I know Aaron is here as well with some comments. But I think, and maybe it's probably better if Sarah talks to this, but their concerns are around groundwater recharge and nutrient cycling and flood mitigation, and just maybe you can talk a little bit about how the posts will impact that.
As previously mentioned, the posts themselves are not considered by the U.S. Army Corps as permanent impacts.
Speak up, please, so people can hear you.
The total square footage, it's not a matter of acres with these piles, it's a matter of total square footage. It's extremely small, particularly when you put it in perspective of the entire wetland. As the wetland currently serves to the local landscape, it is unvegetated. There's a lot of water or surface runoff that would be associated with an unvegetated wetland. The proposed plans for the solar installation and the vegetation underneath it would be to install native wetland-specific plant seed, so that you have a native vegetation growing underneath the solar panels, which, as referenced in the Environmental Defenders letter, significantly increases the value of the wetland functions that they cite, such as groundwater recharge, nutrient upcycling, surface runoff, and as it's currently in its current state, while it does still provide those functions, with the native vegetation installation, it's substantially increased.
Thanks, Sarah. I think there was a mention as well about critical habitats for wildlife in there as well, and we have gone with the IDNR recommended fence that does allow for connectivity and have that 6-inch gap at the base. Okay, moving on. So this is just a bit of a summary of some of the other features here, and you can see, I've tried to put these little arrows on the wetland here to show that it does actually extend down south, but this entire kind of southern S-shaped area here is what we anticipate to be a FEMA floodplain, and I want to just stress that we've not put any panels or fencing or piles in that area, and we've actually left a 20-foot buffer around that floodplain, at the southern part of the property. That is being fully avoided. And then again, just this northern wetland here, which is not anticipated to be jurisdictional, but is within a treed area, we are also fully avoiding that for panels and piles. So I know we're going to get into questions too. I just wanted to talk very briefly about the McHenry County Conservation Foundation. I mentioned at the last hearing that we were in discussion with them about a donation towards their Big Woods initiative to preserve and restore the woodlands within the county. And since we last met, we've actually sent them a proposal, run it by their board, and it's been executed by both parties. So we do have a sizable gift agreement in place with them at this time. That's all I have for now, so I'll turn it over to you, the board, for questions.
Okay, we'll start with questions on my right, Ms. Beverly.
Thank you. So from the last time we were here to this time, have you changed anything about this site plan from the previous hearings?
The actual location of the panels and the piles have not changed.
Okay. Can you zoom in on the tree?
This one?
Yeah. So this question is for Sarah. On the slide that it says there's no new edge habitat creation, I'm seeing on this plan, I'm gonna get up and point. So this tree is gonna be removed, but this tree's on the same timeline. Like, what, are we going to be impacting these trees over the long term? It's my understanding that when you pave in the drip line of a tree, you will degrade the tree.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
So, sorry, just to be clear, there's not gonna be proper paving there, it's gonna be gravel road.
Gravel road, okay, and it is an existing gravel road at this time?
It's an existing road, I don't have the exact material.
was gravel.
But it's gravel. Okay.
Will there be impacts on the edge trees here if the road is widened?
I would argue that those trees that even with the removal of the ones that are currently called out on the site plan, are already exposed pretty significantly as a result of the road being there. So I would not assume that they're going to have additional stress as a result of the removals.
Thank you. I have a bunch of questions, but please bear with me because I wrote them down in different spots. So this will minimize the edge habitats in the canopy. I wanted to see, like you testified, Dylan, that you could do a straight road all the way through, but you would be running into this property. Is this the participating landowner's property? And was that part of the lease agreement to do a straight road? And you're choosing to do this instead, or could you please clarify that for me?
Yeah, so this is one of our landowner's properties over here. Or the entire thing is our landowner's property, but this is where our landowner resides, and this actually is the other landowner's residence.
Can you explain it a little further, just because we only have 6 people, somebody, if they're wanting to understand this, they can't see the screen very well, so
Yeah.
it would be the Sincere.
So the
family?
Sincere property, and this is their residence right here and some of their other ancillary buildings. This is the biggest residence over here, who is our other landowner on
That would be on the west.
the west side of that. And yeah, so a straight line road, you know, as we have it, I think it could actually fit right here, but it could be, you know, a straight line road a little bit to the west of where it is now. And that would be.
You mean east of where it is now?
Yeah, east of the curved
Yes.
area.
But nothing about your site plan now has changed from previously. So the straight road was never initially proposed in this case. There's been no mitigation.
The straight road was never proposed to the ZBA, but it was our kind of initial plan before heading out to site and realizing there was an access road that we could utilize there.
And when you say that piling on wetlands is not considered a permanent impact, so there's no mitigation required then in that case? Okay. We also, in addition to the defender's letter, we received a letter from the city of McHenry. I don't know if you wanted to take the time to address that.
Sure, I can address that. I actually reached out to the city of McHenry, I believe it was in June or July of this year, or to let them know about our plans, and I got feedback from the planner there that we likely wouldn't have any objections there, and that they would get in touch with us if there were objections. And since then, we've had, our initial hearing here. I believe that they, there were some residents there who have since, over the last few weeks, called their city council and their mayor there. Once I found out about that, I gave them a call back to make myself available for any questions, or to address any concerns from the council or from the mayor about that. I understand there was a city council meeting, I believe it was last Monday the 3rd. Don't quote me on the exact date, but the solar farm here was not on their agenda, although I did get word that they would be discussing it, and made myself available to the planner. I wasn't able to attend in time, but I did let them know that I wanted to hear feedback if they had any of it, and they, at that hearing, even though it wasn't on the agenda, still kind of voted as individuals to send a letter of opposition here.
Thanks. And going back to the Defender's letter, there's reference here to a smaller footprint. Can you zoom out and let's look at the whole site plan?
Yeah.
How many megawatts is the northern portion of this project?
I don't have that exact number here. It's about half, so I would guess about 2.5 megawatts.
And how many acres is it? So it's my understanding that this is a bifacial panel project, right?
Correct. Yeah.
How many acres is this?
The area within the fence is 33.1.
In the northern portion?
I don't have the exact number offhand. Roughly half of that.
I've been looking at some other projects, just because we received this letter from the Defenders, and we've approved multiple projects on less than 20 acres with 5 megawatts achieved through fixed panels. It's my understanding you can kind of cram more panels on a site if you do fixed.
That's correct, yeah.
To achieve the megawatt goals?
Yes.
And is this project viable at 2.5 megawatts with bifacial?
I haven't run those numbers. At 2.5, my gut would be no.
Well, because it's currently at 5, so I split it in half, right? So 2.5. Okay. And if you were to adjust to fixed, the majority of your project is on the northern end. If you were to adjust to fixed, do you think that you could probably get more than 2.5 out?
Possibly. I think it depends on the engineering there, and I'll say too that the megawatt is not the only metric you're looking at. It's the actual production, and so depending on so trackers, which we have now, the single axis trackers are rough. You get about 30% more production than you do with the fixed tilt panels. So the megawatt is kind of the maximum if everything is perfectly aligned and shining bright, but over the course of a day or a year, you do get a good 30% more.
Well, and to speak more to that, we had another project where they were looking to clear a substantial amount of acreage on the south end to deal with shading. How is this project managing the shading issue?
We believe that the way it's situated now, that like there will be sufficient sunlight coming in that the shading won't be an issue. We do have like a couple of trees, I believe it was just at the edge here.
But how will the middle portion of trees affect both arrays?
These ones here?
All of those trees. I mean, doesn't that degrade the productivity of the entire site?
So that will have likely some effect on the south facing or the southernmost panels of the northern array there. I don't anticipate, because the sun is going to rise in the east here, come from the south, and then head west. So this entire southern array, I don't believe should be affected at all by these trees here. It'll be these few southern panels on the northern edge there.
There won't be substantial shading issues with the forest on the east side of the southern array?
Potentially a little bit here, but we believe that the setback there will be sufficient to get the production that we need.
I think that's all I have for right now. Oh, one more question, I'm sorry. Big Woods project, did you specify which watershed you'd like your trees planted in?
We haven't gotten to those details with them yet.
Okay.
Mr. Schnabel.
I have no questions.
Ms. Gardner.
I have one question. A couple of questions. Now, you mentioned 29 total trees for removal. Is that the maximum?
Yeah, we believe that that's the maximum, and that includes, a few trees in the field here of the southern array, and then those several that you saw in the zoomed-in photo along the edge.
So you would be okay with a condition that says no more than 29 trees to be removed from the site?
I believe so. As I mentioned, this is, not 100% exact because it hasn't been surveyed, but that's kind of our estimation.
Well, I thought that's what the tree survey was for.
That's the number of, these numbers of total trees are correct.
So 29 could be your maximum?
I believe so. How?
I mean, it would depend on what the topographic survey comes out and what the end design of the road.
Then what would be the maximum that would be removed?
I don't.
Percentage we could add there.
How much more than 29?
It would not be any more significant. It would be plus or minus 5 trees, in my estimation.
Okay, so we're talking a fairly real number with 29 trees?
Extremely real, yes.
Okay. Now, a little bit off, this is not related to this testimony, but it is since our last meeting that we heard you. A woman asked me, in fact, her name is Mrs. Susan Robertson. She lives in that house that's right on Bull Valley.
Yeah, she lives up here.
Yes, she does. And she told me that when she walks out her door, she's just really, really close to where these are gonna be. And there's nothing in between there. I went to her house and I couldn't really walk around too much because the landscapers were there and I didn't want to get mowed over. But I did go in her backyard and literally you're just several feet away from the cornfield. There's nothing there. Would you be conducive to adding heavy landscaping there or some kind of screening, a fence of some type that, you can't see through?
So,
A screening?
yeah, so this is the property
Yes.
we're talking about here. And
Yes.
there's some dense vegetation around, we'll call it the southern part
It's
of
really
her
not very
property.
dense by the house.
It's not.
No,
Okay.
it's not dense at all by the house.
Okay. Yeah, we kind of from the aerial image assumed this was dense, and so we've only added the vegetation
I
screening
suggest you go
along there.
look at it.
Yeah, I've been there, I've walked the property.
Oh, then you know that there's nothing there. There's no dense vegetation there, right?
Yeah, well, along the northern part here, and there's a few trees there, but yeah, it's not.
I'm talking about the eastern part there.
Yeah, no, we could do that too. So I think.
The suggestion I was just asking about is,
Again, identify yourself.
I apologize, Mark Gershon again for the record. As you can see, we've got a row of buffer, along where the actual panels would be. And the part that doesn't have the panels, she's a significant setback from that property to where panels actually are. So we can, if that's acceptable to the board, we put that buffer where you ask us to put it, which is right next to the panels. there's no reason that same buffer couldn't be moved to her property line. Does that make sense? What I'm
It
saying?
does make sense.
Yeah, okay. If that's, certainly if that was a condition you put on us, that we move that buffer rather than being next to the panel, next to, on our side of the property line, just make sure, right? That we could move that there. And obviously I'm looking at the aerials, I've looked at the property. I think the part you're talking about is above that vegetation there that's shown on the drawing, because that's what's closer to the panels. I mean, that setback is still significantly more than what the state code and your code requires, even up there.
So
but
from
we
her
have more.
house,
Yeah.
the edge of her, the eastern edge of her house to, let's say where you put the screening, how far is that in feet?
Well, so the eastern edge of her house here to the panel itself is 150 feet setback. So you're looking at about maybe 120, 130 feet from her house to the trees as it stands now.
But when there's absolutely nothing there, it feels a lot closer. It just does, you
Okay.
know, because there's nothing there. I mean, you're in her yard and you, like right now, you see corn, maybe not now, but when I was there, you see corn, and it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
the corn itself is, I believe, a lot closer to the property line than the panels would be in this
Uh-huh.
scenario.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that, looking at it right now is the, like from her land is the greatest projection of what it will be like. But like Mark said, we're amenable to moving that vegetative screening line closer to her property if you think that would be of value to her.
Would you consider doubling or maybe even tripling the screening? The line of screening,
Like the width of it.
right by her house?
Yeah, I think that's something that we could do along this north-south stretch there. And we, in our last one, we kind of gave you the schematic of the evergreen trees and the shrubs in between, and maybe.
We can't hear you.
In the last testimony, we gave you the schematic of the evergreen trees and the shrubs in between, and I think we're definitely open, if that's a specific request from her, to add some additional, infill or an additional road there, if we think that that's gonna, satisfy her and see her.
I would also ask that you actually speak with her and come to some agreement with what would be best for her to screen the view.
Sure.
But I don't live there. I just went there that one day, and I
Yeah.
can tell you it's close. And when there's nothing in between you and even the road, it feels close,
Yeah, no, I'm happy to speak to Sue, and I know she came to the last hearing here, and I knocked on her door. I didn't get a chance to connect with her in advance, but
I
did.
knocked on the door and she wasn't there, but the landscapers were, so.
So, same you and I. But I did connect with her kind of in the hallway after the last hearing and told her, apologized that we didn't get a chance to connect, left her my contact information, told her that if she had questions or requests like this, that I was available, and I haven't heard from her since then.
Okay.
So,
All right,
but yes,
so
I'm very
I-
much open to adding.
I
some
intend
buffer there.
to suggest a condition that, the screening be thicker by her house and that you work with her to come to some agreement about it.
Only because I know that your permitting people will want something, probably a little more clarification of that. The drawing that we had before, which was part of our presentation, it shows the thicker landscape option. Can we identify that as your condition that we would require to put in that heavier buffer, either where it is now, or if she prefers, closer to the property line?
I think that would be acceptable.
Great, great.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Mr.
I have no questions at this time.
Ms. Downey?
I have no questions at this time.
So I just have a question regarding when you were looking at the wetlands on the original site plan.
This one here?
Yes. Were you assuming that was high-quality wetland, or were you assuming it was low-quality wetland? Did you have any indication of what type of wetland you were dealing with?
Sarah Stronsky, Killinghorn. The advanced ID wetland provided by McHenry County doesn't identify quality. So that's at the determination of the wetland scientists when they do the field visit.
So you had not gone out to do a field visit on your own to look at what kind of quality wetlands might be there?
Myself, but there was a wetland scientist who did, myself, no, but there was a wetland scientist who does that.
Before
all-
the original plan was developed, you didn't go out and look at the site yourself to look at wetlands?
No, Sarah didn't, and our other wetland scientist did not. I walked the site myself. I'm not a wetland scientist and wasn't able to identify that.
So then after it was determined that it was indeed a very high-quality wetland, you didn't make any adjustments to your site plan at all?
The wetland report that I reviewed, it's not a high-quality wetland. It's just a standard quality wetland, but high quality is determined based off of your vegetative cover, and there is none. So by that premise, it wouldn't meet the standards of being a high-quality wetland.
Which would be an aided wetland, correct?
No, aided simply means that it's an advanced ID form, so you have two online resources that you can utilize to see if you have wetlands or possible wetlands on your property. The first being issued by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which is the National Wetlands Mapper, the National Wetlands Inventory Mapper. And then McHenry takes it one step farther, and they did an additional study utilizing a variety of resources like LIDAR, elevation contours, soils data, and they provide for their county an advanced identification. So it's a little bit, in layman's terms, it's a more refined data set than what the NWI can provide, but it does not, just because it's identified on the aided wetlands mapper through the county does not mean that it's a high quality wetland. It simply means that a wetland is probable to be present at that site.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Now you're getting back track. Okay. Go ahead and ask your question.
When you remove trees, do you just clear cut them or do you remove the stumps as well?
That is at the discretion of the designer and the landscape specs.
So you don't know?
I don't know, I presume we'll be getting building permits from the county for all the work we're doing. Then I don't know what your code requires in terms of tree removal for that.
I don't
But
know.
obviously we'd be
Yeah,
compliant.
I just was wondering what the plan was. Thank you.
Okay, so Linnea Kustra again. So back to the wetlands. So have you installed any solar farms in Army Corps of Engineer areas before?
I have permitted wetland, or rather solar installations within wetlands that are core jurisdictional, yes.
And is it in this area of northern Illinois, and how much? Can you tell me how much acreage and that sort of thing, and what sorts of things have you had to go through with that?
So the process is usually setting up a pre-application meeting with the U.S. Army Corps. They'll designate a LRC case number.
Explain that.
I don't even know the correct term or like what the actual acronym stands for myself, but it's essentially their coding system of like a request coming into their office, and then they, with that request, they assign a specific number to it. They assign it to a project manager. The developer and the project manager for the U.S. Army Corps that has been delegated have a pre-application meeting, discuss what the actual impacts that are proposed to be associated with the development. The project manager then informs the applicant what the types of permanent or temporary impacts are likely to be considered by the U.S. Army Corps. And every single instance that I have worked at this point over 4 different permit applications within just McHenry County itself, and then I couldn't tell you.
With Army Corps?
Correct, and I couldn't tell you how many within Northern Illinois itself. And the installation of solar piles is not considered a permanent impact, it's considered a temporary impact, which then you get a letter of no objection through the Army Corps as a result, and as a result of that pre-application hearing and the submittal of the design sets, and with the understanding that within the installation of those piles, that there will be no fill installed, no grading associated, and that they are driven vertically so as to minimize any impact of the actual installation of them.
Isn't that the case really in all your piles? That you do, your solar farm, you don't do grading? It's just really, you install the piles?
It's project specific. We try as much as possible to minimize the amount of grading on any site. Sometimes if you end up with steep slopes somewhere, you have to do a little bit. That's why we call out. I don't anticipate any on this project anywhere, but that's why we call out specifically that we won't be moving anything in the wetland
Need to
area.
speak up again.
That's why we call out specifically here that we won't be doing any fill or grading or dredging within that wetland area.
Now I'd like to go back to the trees.
Yeah. This one?
No, the table, please.
Yeah.
So you have the total number of trees in poor or dead condition. So the trees to be removed are not in poor or dead condition, I'm assuming? They are the trees in good condition?
The 23 out of the 29, without having that list of trees in front of me, many of them could be in poor or dead condition. That other species survey captures all trees that are not oak, hickory, sycamore, elm, or sugar maples, and the vast majority of them being box elder and black cherry. And the condition of those trees is all over the board of good to dead. And that number is captured in that 23 that you see.
The ones of interest to me, of course, are the high quality ones. So the oaks and hickories of 12 inches or greater, the 100 trees that you looked at, 15 were in poor or dead condition. Are those 4 that are being removed in poor or dead condition, or are they the ones that are in good?
Those are in good or fair condition.
Okay, so you might be removing some others that are dead?
Not that are oaks or hickories.
Okay. There are some oaks and hickories on the property that are dead, but
Correct.
but they're not in
the ones
places
that are
would
to be removed.
So really, the only items of concern are is the right column, those that,
Yes.
and those are that,
Correct.
those are live trees, okay.
Well, the column to the right is for the specific, I can answer to the oaks and hickories because I know the trees associated with those.
Sure.
Those are all in good or fair condition. The other species surveyed of those 23, without knowing specifics, but there are a number among them that are in poor or dead condition.
Okay.
But none of the oaks or hickories.
Okay, and I think I remember from the hearing before that the road is currently 20 feet, and you're thinking it would have to be 40 feet for fire protection? Or staff mentioned that it would need to be, I remember something in the testimony.
So 20 feet is the standard that the fire districts require. It was actually part of my question was if you had spoken with the fire district, if they would be willing to let it be more narrow than that, if it would impact the number of trees that would be removed. But yeah, 20 is the max, I think, that I've ever seen
Okay.
for the fire
All right,
district.
so is that the width you were looking at is 20 feet? Or were you looking at a smaller width or a larger width when you identified these trees in that driveway area?
So I identified all trees on property regardless of where they were located.
The ones that would need to be removed, was
So-
it based on what width of roadway?
I think it was 20 feet that we looked at.
The design that you're seeing here is a 20-foot road design.
Okay.
So the,
Did you speak to the fire department and see if they would allow you to have a smaller road?
we have not spoken to them since the initial hearing about that.
And if they would be agreeable to a smaller road, would you lower the width of that road through the Oak Woods?
Yes, assuming that the construction contractors are also in agreement that a narrower road would be sufficient.
Okay, and when you found out about all these trees, the trees that would be impacted, did you go back to the Sincere property owner and ask them if it would be possible to go through their property and avoid those trees?
There were multiple alignments that were looked at, all of them, like the perpendicular alignments, and all of those alignments provided the same or greater number of impact to those trees. And I think it also should be mentioned that creating a new road is just creating additional impacts to whatever trees that are gonna fall outside of that new
And
roadway.
how is that? Explain that to me.
Beverly, Ms. Beverly answered it to it earlier, but it's creating new edge habitat that otherwise didn't exist. What was a closed canopy is now opened, and so that incurs some level of damage or some level of impact to the trees that are now on that edge habitat. So utilizing the existing roadway does mitigate the impacts that otherwise would be incurred due to a new roadway.
All right. Everybody on the board is done with their questions? Does staff have any questions?
My only question was the width of the drive, so I'm good.
Oh, I'm glad I added that same one. Does any member of the public have questions? You can only ask questions regarding the testimony presented today. It can't be about anything else at the other hearings because you had that opportunity before. But if you would like to ask a question regarding this wetland survey or the tree study, you'd be allowed 3 minutes to ask any questions. So I would ask you to come up. Yeah, go ahead. Come on up, and you'll need to identify yourself. We'll turn up the lights, so.
Okay,
The green-
Bergen buttons are where the mics are to be recorded and on video, so you have to come up here.
Come on here.
All right.
Yes. And if you just wait just a second, I'll get my timer. Okay.
Okay. No, I was just wondering.
Again, your name and address, please.
Oh, Catherine Bergen, 6311 Bull Valley Road. I was wondering, as far as the soil goes, soil testing.
This
Exactly
has to
what
be
hap-
just the wetland.
Just the wetlands, yeah. How many samples do you take? I mean, there's quite a bit of area.
It's at the discretion of the wetland scientist. I believe for that wetland, there were 3 different sample points. Minimum is 2. So
Per acre?
no, per wetland. So you need to establish what is inside the wetland and what is outside the wetland. So obviously, a minimum of 2 sample points would be required to be able to do that. There was also a 3rd sample point that was taken towards the southwest edge of the floodplain associated with Boone Creek.
And water runoff from panels that affect that soil, the wetland soil, from runoff, from heavy downpours, we get them here. Would that affect the soil samples that he has taken? Would that affect that soil from the panels, the water runoff?
I suppose I don't understand the question.
Okay, when there's water runoff, wetland soil is, of course, very soggy.
Sure.
And a lot of it may run into Boone Creek because panels are impermeable. You know,
This is
they're
just
gonna-
regarding, ma'am, this is just regarding the wetlands and whether there are wetlands here. That's the only testimony, not about anything else
Boone
about
Creek.
runoff or Boone Creek. No, it was strictly the wetlands and the tree survey.
Oh, I get you. Okay.
Anyone else have questions regarding the testimony that was submitted today? Okay. And,
They don't care about.
you already gave your report. So now I will offer the public any opportunity to make a comment regarding the testimony today. If you'd like to make a comment, you would be allowed to do that because this is new testimony today. Before the public comment about anything else had been already presented, but if anyone would like to make a comment regarding the tree survey or the wetlands, I would allow you that opportunity to do so. So if anyone would like to come up and do that, now is your opportunity. Okay.
I have a question. You just completely shut us off. We can't talk.
I'm sorry, sir, no.
All right, my
I
name is
didn't-
Michael Bergen. I have a question. Last time, part of the reason that the soils were to be studied was because my house, which I'd like the opportunity for people to view this, the location of it.
Yeah, I'll go back, Mike.
Thank you very much.
It's right, here.
Were you here at the other hearings?
Right here.
And you had the opportunity to ask questions and give public comment, I heard it. And so you could ask questions about anything that was presented then. Today's hearing was only for these two pieces of testimony.
I'd like to ask, because one of the reasons that it was called upon was because I have a problem with water at my house. When it rains heavily, my sump pump will run for days. My concern is that.
You can talk about your concern later. In fact, you did. I heard your testimony. You talked about your concern. You had your public comment, sir. So you.
Thanks for your help.
Yes. So now this would be public testimony regarding today. Ma'am, you had a public comment, please. Go ahead. You'll have that opportunity.
Good afternoon. I'm Erin Kennedy with the Environmental Defenders. Just wanted to thank you. Sorry. Did you guys hear all that?
Yes. Yeah, perfect.
Just wanted to thank you guys for your time for looking at our statement. That statement is from concerns that I had from our membership, calling about issues or things that they were obviously concerned about. I also wanted to note, I am pleased to hear that they will be adding wetland plants to the project, but those will take several years to establish. So that's something to consider. Thank you.
Okay, so do you have any other, you have no other testimony, right? It was just this.
Just
Did you present your closing statement before you, did you? I don't.
No, I did not.
Okay.
I'll also make it brief because again, I want to keep to the subject we're looking at.
Identify yourself again.
I apologize, Mark Gershon. Just a couple of the items. CPA member Beverly mentioned the letter that we have from the town of McHenry. I think this group knows that. I'm not sure if the other members of the community do. While comprehensive plans are always interesting for us to look at, the practical answer is under the municipal code that allows McHenry County to have, I'm sorry, I apologize, the city of McHenry to have a comprehensive plan. That same code specifically says that those plans are advisory only, and in of themselves, they do not construe to regulate or control the use of private property in any way, except as to the part that has been implemented by ordinances, which obviously they can't do because they don't have zoning here. By comparison, the Illinois siting law, again, that's the way in which the city of McHenry can have a comprehensive plan. The Illinois siting law, which we've talked about, which is how this county and every county in Illinois zones and regulates solar, says that if you meet their requirements, then that project should be approved. So the comprehensive plan is an interesting item for them to be concerned about. It's not, however, binding on this board, as I think this group knows, but just for others. In terms of the wetland plants and the issue, which I appreciate, the environmental defenders comment on, it is true, they have to be established. But what that means is that on day one, we are looking at the same level of wetlands we had before we built this project, because as plantings aren't installed and have not grown in yet, and as they grow in, we are actually improving on every area that they had concerns about. So we don't disagree, it doesn't happen up front. Reminder for ZBA member Gardner that if you want to add, please do that. One condition, we have no objection to it. I don't know if the staff can help us to give you the specific description of that exhibit. I don't have it because we were going to talk about that tonight. But again, we have no objection to moving those plants close to their property. And essentially, if you want to make that a condition for us to do that more dense buffer yard that we identified in our prior testimony, and to either do it at the property line, at the location shown in the plan, or if requested by the neighbor closer to their property line.
Ms. Gardner, Ms. Christopher, can I request recognition?
Of course, Ms. Beverly.
Just to clarify, it sounded to me like Ms. Gardner proposed 3 separate conditions. In addition to the landscape buffer with the neighbor, There was some discussion about perhaps reducing the width of the road after consultation with the fire district to avoid inappropriate impact to the trees. And there was some discussion about limiting the number of trees to be removed from the site. I think Sarah testified that it was around 35 that would potentially need to be removed. Would those conditions be agreeable?
With completely, I think we agree with one caveat on that. I think the answer was we needed to verify with the fire department and also with our contractor, which would probably, to be honest, be your building department, that we have adequate space on the road to reduce it. We have no objection to reducing the width of the road on that basis.
Right, your current proposal is for 20 feet, and Sarah testified that if you did the full 20 feet, potentially 35 trees could be impacted. So 35 would be the number.
Correct.
At most.
I think that's, you had said 5%, I assume that.
You said 5 additional trees.
5 additional trees, I
Plus
apologize.
or minus 5 trees. I don't want to be held to that specific number without a survey obviously being completed. But in my estimation, they're up to 35 trees.
At the
Would be
widest.
Yeah, the concern is, of course, it's going to literally be when you're out in the field, laying out the roadway, whether or not it's 5, whether or not it's 6, and trying to find that out. It just isn't something that we know until we're actually out there with the contractors. I'm trying to think of how we could give them that. Would you accept commercially best efforts to reduce, to reduce the trees, or to have no more than 5 additional trees? So I guess that's 34, if we're talking about 5 more, that's right. So to have no more than 34. Only because until we actually build it, it's going to be very hard to know. Clearly, I agree with you, because a lot of those trees are on the edge. If the fire department and the contractors can allow us to reduce that size, then we'll be happy to do it. We just want to make sure that works.
So just for a round number, 35 is acceptable to include in a condition.
And commercial. We'd like to have it limited to commercially best efforts.
It was stated that it would be.
Wait, you've got to identify yourself. Vicki Gardner.
Okay, I'm Vicki Gardner, and it was stated by Sarah, I believe, that there would, it would be at the most 5 more than the.
Vicki, I can't hear you. And I'm only 2 places away. If you could speak up a little bit louder, please, I appreciate it, because my hearing's going and I get a little bit of mumble in there. On either side, it makes no difference.
Okay, I'll try and repeat that. It was stated, I believe, by Sarah that there could be an additional 5 more or less, but no more than 5 more trees.
In my estimation.
Yeah, the problem, of course, is you're talking about estimation for this, but we will accept that as a condition, that it would be 35, no more than 35 trees.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
That's it? Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Any other? Okay, so at this time, we'll close the hearing portion of the meeting. And we'll move on to the voting portion of the meeting. Again, I want to just clarify that is application Z250065. The applicant is Pebble Solar LLC, and the request is for a conditional use permit to allow for a commercial solar energy facility. I want to remind the petitioner that we only have 6 people here, and you're allowed 7 votes for the county board. Are you agreeable that we go forward with 6 votes?
Yes.
So we have several revised.
I think Mary's pointing us to speak
And you
louder.
said what?
I said yes.
Thank you.
My apologies.
I apologize for interrupting.
We have several, these are revised proposed conditions from the previous hearing for Pebble Solar Z250065. I'm going to go ahead and just read them just for everybody's clarification. The condition, number 1, the conditional use shall have no time limit unless the use is abandoned as specified in 16.56.030.pp.4 of the McHenry County Unified Development Ordinance. Number 2, site development shall be in substantial conformance with the site plan prepared by Kimley Horn dated October 23, 2025, attached. Number 3, the decommissioning plan shall be applicable in part as well as in whole. If any portion of the commercial solar energy facility ceases to perform its intended function for more than 12 consecutive months, that portion of the facility shall be decommissioned in compliance with all the terms of the decommissioning plan. Number 4, a McHenry County stormwater management permit shall be secured prior to construction. Any damaged drainage tiles shall be repaired at the expense of the petitioner and in a manner satisfactory to the Water Resources Division Manager. Number 5, a detailed landscape plan illustrating compliance with required landscape screening standards and Illinois Department of Natural Resources pollinator scorecard standards and land management practices shall be approved by the zoning enforcement officer prior to issuance of construction/building permit. Number 6, recommendations made by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources in their June 26, 2025 letter to the applicants with regard to protected resources in the vicinity of the project location shall be followed. Number 7, fencing shall be provided in compliance with the National Electrical Code as applicable and shall be of a woven wire agricultural style containing a 6-inch gap along the bottom to prevent the restriction of wildlife movement. The use of barbed wire is prohibited. Setting fence posts in concrete is prohibited, except for gate posts and where otherwise required for stability. Number 8, all requirements of McHenry County Unified Development Ordinance, Section 16.56.030.pp as amended, subject to State of Illinois Public Act 102-1123 and Public Act 103-0580, shall be met or exceeded unless specifically amended by this conditional use permit. Number 9, all other federal, state, and local laws shall be met. Are there any other proposed conditions?
Madam Chairwoman, I request that we take a 5-minute break to work out specific language with staff regarding additional proposed conditions to make sure that they're consistent with building permit phases.
That's granted. You take a 5-minute break. Did you get your phone call in?
I did.
Okay.
Hi, staff. Okay, this is it right here.
Oh, yeah, that's okay, because
Okay, we'll come back to order. Any other proposed conditions?
Yes. I propose that we include a condition.
Mr. Demus Gardner?
Yes, that the petitioner work directly with the resident on the northwest corner of the site, whose address and name I will supply, to increase the width to Exhibit A. The width of, wait a minute, there's part I didn't get, because I didn't have my glasses on. so
To
give me a
increase the
second.
landscape screening consistent with Exhibit A.
Okay,
Again. Okay.
with written proof of consent or with written proof of consult or consultation.
Consent or consultation of the neighbor.
Consultation with, yeah, okay.
Ms. Beverly, would you read the whole thing again?
Yes.
Thank you.
Increase the width of the landscape buffer to be consistent with Exhibit A and with proof of neighbor consent or consultation regarding the location.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Ms. Gardner, seconded by Mr. Schnabel, explained by Ms. Beverly. Any discussion on this condition?
For a point of information, can you just read to me the last 6 words of that? I was writing too fast.
Proof of neighbor consent or consultation regarding the location.
Thank you.
Mary Donner has a
Comment?
a comment and discussion concerning this. When we get down to the confirmation, I agree, consent, not necessarily because we could.
I said consent or consultation.
No, I understand that, but I just, and I think you're going down a road if you start coming up with those kind of things where we get what's going to be the consent.
Demonstrated consultation is sufficient as well. We've
That
heard
would
from the
be
neighbors
okay.
multiple times that outreach has not happened, that was testified happened, and I just want to make sure that it's written down in this case.
I understand that, but you can disagree on things all the time. I can think that, what's a tree? Is the size of, this is Mary Donner again, the size of a tree a 4-inch tree? Is it a 8-foot-high bush? Is it a this? And if this person says yes and this person says, yeah, I don't know. So confirmation, and not necessarily, because I can't, what if she decides that she doesn't want to consent to anything?
There's at least evidence of consultation.
Perfect.
That's why both of those words are there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Beverly?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, so condition 10 is approved 6-0.
I have an additional proposed condition, Madam Chairwoman.
All right.
The
Condition 11.
additional proposed condition is that best commercial efforts to work with the fire district to decrease the width of the road to avoid impacts to trees. Also, best commercial efforts be made to work with the fire district to decrease the width of the road to avoid impacts to trees.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Beverly, second by Ms. Donner to create this condition 11 discussion. Ms. Beverly or anybody else?
This is consistent with testimony and consistent with the fact that some fire districts will require less wide roads than others. And I included the language of commercial at the request of the petitioner's attorney so that their construction people can have a say in how it works as well.
Any other discussion? Then I'll call for the vote on condition 11. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Beverly?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, so conditional 11 is approved 6-0.
I have an additional condition to propose.
Okay, Ms. Beverly, this would be condition 12.
Make commercial best efforts to fell no more than 35 trees.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Ms. Beverly.
This is consistent with testimony and is agreed upon with the petitioner per the testimony.
Mary Donner agrees with Ms. Beverly, and I like the last wording, what did you say? I forgot what you said on it.
What's that? Oh, it's agreed, it was consented upon in testimony.
Yes, it's consent upon testimony. Read the whole thing for me again, please. Just that one.
The condition?
Just that condition.
Oh,
because
make
part of
commercial
it-
best efforts to fell no more than 35 trees.
That is a very good wording for what I would like to see happening in here. Thank you. And that's my discussion, is that, and I had this, what do you call a tree? 2-inch? Do you call it a 3-inch? Do you call it a 6-inch? I know I'm concerned about the 4 hickory oaks or whatever other one there was in there. I certainly have no worry about getting rid of any box elders. I had a whole line of them along my house. So but the way you have worded it is a very good way to word it in my mind. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, if I could, I think ZBA member Donner raised something very important. Can we identify trees as
3 inches or greater as
3 inches or
written in
greater?
survey.
Because you're right, if there's an acorn that falls on the ground and it's now an inch off the ground, we don't want someone to consider that to be a tree.
Madam Chair, I request amending the proposed condition to state, make commercial best efforts to fell no more than 35 trees, 3 inches in diameter or greater. Is the phrasing DBH, Sarah? Is it DBH?
Correct,
So
diameter breast.
3 inches DBH or greater.
Ms. Gardner, are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I do. I second the amendment.
Okay. All right, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Beverly?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, so condition 12 is approved to 6-0. Are there any other proposed conditions?
Madam Chairman, I move acceptance of the conditions as amended.
Second, Mary Donner.
It's been moved by Mr. Eldridge, second by Ms. Donner, to approve these conditions as amended. Is there any discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Beverly?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, so the conditions as amended are approved 6-0. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve this request.
For purposes of discussion, I will move acceptance of the petition subject to conditions as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Schnabel. It's been moved by Mr. Eldridge, second by Mr. Schnabel to approve this request. Discussion, Mr. Eldridge.
Yes. We have had a great many solar farm proposals, and I think I voted in favor of all of them, including all of those prior to Public Law 102-1123, which required us to vote in favor. I'm having trouble with this one. I am not sure that I can find that they have gone to appropriate efforts to minimize the impacts to wetlands and tree removal. They have given us a tree study, they have given us a wetland delineation, and they've given us arguments why their proposal meets appropriate standards and from the beginning has done so, but they haven't moved or reduced a single panel from what the original proposal has. And I am very uncomfortable with that. At this point, I am inclined to vote against the proposal on the grounds that they have not minimized the ecological impacts which are so vital to our county. but I wish to listen to my colleagues.
Ms. Gardner?
I am so on the fence on this one. I find that for the most part, the state standards and our standards have been met. I'm not sure about our standards entirely. I mean, always with hearings, our focus is on the county, what's best for the county. We also want to protect the people that are there that, you know, have to live through the progress of the county and the changes that come with that. That is not what would sway me particularly on this. We are, you know, obligated by law basically to vote in favor of these, as Mr. Eldridge stated. This one, I don't like trees being removed. That always bothers me. I feel that no matter how hard they try, they're not going to be able to minimize the impact on the site. So that is what is holding me back here. So I'll wait to hear from the rest of my colleagues.
Mr. Stinova?
I have to agree to a large extent in what's been said. Mitigation has been de minimis, if at any. And Ms. Beverly made a statement earlier about possibly changing the design to a fixed panel array, which might take up less room. That might be a mitigation. On the other hand, the landowner has a right to use his property any way he sees fits as long as it's legal. And there's no regulation that says a landowner can't cut down half a dozen trees of some significance or what have you. So I'm inclined to feel as though they've met the standards. It's not a wildly optimistic, wonderful plan that is perhaps on a farm field in the middle of nowhere, which is, I think, what solar fields were originally designed for. It seems to me counterintuitive to put a solar farm in the middle of a forested area. So I question strongly the advisability of approving a project like this. And I'll just leave it at that for now.
Ms. Beverly?
Thanks, Kurt. I agree with you. I actually worked with the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition on drafting CEJA, and solar farms inside of woodlands were not contemplated in Illinois. The Climate and Equitable Jobs Act that expanded the RPS system and led to the explosion of clean energy in our area. I did not work on the Illinois Siting Act. I left the Sierra Club by that time, but I have talked to my colleagues, and they're frankly horrified that we're seeing so many projects that are felling trees, and have recommended that McHenry County adopt a very strong tree ordinance to discourage this type of development. I am inclined to agree with Charlie. I have a real problem with this site plan not demonstrating any actual mitigation and saying that they did. And I don't think I can support this petition. And this will be the first time that I, a clean energy advocate, have ever not supported a petition.
Ms. Donner?
I'm the newbie on this board. Some of the things, every time you ask a question and it's answered, the answers beget more questions, and it gets deeper and deeper into the weeds. And considering the conditions that we've asked for and they've agreed to, I appreciate. There are some things that have been happening in these meetings that I have been kind of sitting back and saying, really? Come on. But considering that the state has imposed certain restrictions that require our approval, and this could be one of them, this ZBA takes great pains to educate ourselves and the public on those items, which will be addressed by other departments as we proceed. So we can say, is it eligible for this? Yes. Stormwater can turn around and screw it, mess with it, or, you know, make changes to it. You still have to get through other permitting things that we have nothing to do with. And although we've asked the questions and we're getting answers for them, I still don't see a way for large trees that I can say no, and I would be voting in favor of this.
And I agree with the comments with my colleagues in that in this proposal, it just seems to me, if it was a smaller site, it would be fine, you know, if it was a smaller solar farm. But I feel they're trying to maximize their electricity usage at the expense of the natural resources in this proposal. And I don't think they've taken the efforts necessary to preserve the natural resources, especially the trees. And, you know, those trees are, they're yeah, old oaks. And so I just think, you know, and other hardwoods. And I just think that the petitioner could have made some changes to make this more appropriate, and they made no effort to do so. So with the site plan that's presented with us, I just don't think it's appropriate. So I'm opposed to it as presented to us today. So at this time, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Eldridge?
No.
Ms. Gartner?
No.
Mr. Schnabel?
No.
Ms. Beverly?
No.
Ms. Donner?
Aye. Yes.
And I will vote no. So the request to approve, the motion to approve this request fails 1 to 5.
Madam Chairman, I move denying the petition.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Eldridge to deny this petition, second by Ms. Gartner. Discussion? And I'll call for the vote. Again, a vote yes would be to deny this petition. Mr. Eldridge?
Yes.
Ms. Gartner?
Yes.
Mr. Schnabel?
Yes.
Ms. Beverly?
Yes.
Ms. Donner?
No. Nay.
And I'll vote yes. So this petition has been denied by a vote of 5 to 1. At this time, our hearing is closed. Thank you, everyone.
Sometimes you gotta send a message.